Alright, mountain bikers, here we go with another of the Utah Midweek Mountain Bike Race Series. This is race number 3 over in Soldier Hollow, Utah.
You good to go? Okay.
This race consists of a 9-mile course with a little bit over 1,300 feet of elevation gain. The start of this race, as you can see here, is in the trees for like half a second, and then we'll actually get going. So, as of last week, the few things that I was looking at trying to do differently, I had noticed was I was moving my pedals a little bit too fast. I mean, as you can see here, even with my cadence, I'm at 95 to over 100 RPMs in cadence here. And so I'm going. My thought process there was to work on a couple of things. So the few things that I had talked about in the last one, talked about communication. If you watch this, I am trying to communicate and let people know sooner that I am back behind them, so that they can start to make a decision much sooner than, or at a much later pace, so that when I get up to them, they know that I'm there. So as you watch this race, that's kind of the things that I started working on. This race in particular, it's kind of a weird one due to the way that the course is designed. The course itself is very starts a lot in the grass, a lot more than I expected. So if you guys have ever ridden on grass, grass is tough. Grass makes you put down a little more power than you expect. So, that's where I'm sitting at. My max heart rate normally sits about 169, 170 ish or so. So you can see I'm pretty close to 90% of my max heart rate just as we start this. Yeah, so here we go. The two things that I really started wanting to work on this time around was my cadence. I was trying to put fewer strokes down, but more power overall, and my communication. So this race, this course, it still is a little primitive in terms of how the course is designed. The dirt itself was pretty loose. I mean, it was like moon dust. At least that's what I call it. So you'll see several times where I will be riding, going through a corner, expecting not to have any problems, and it was difficult because I would kind of get closer to the edge, and all of a sudden it got super loose. And there goes one of the expert or pro riders. I don't know. That guy was behind me. The start of the race again is a time trial format. We are racing at a pace, in a not XC kind of a pacing. We're not a mass start pacing, so you don't have a whole bunch of people around you. But that kid was fast. I mean, he was pushing it through it. Part of this race strategy is I know that this course is a 2-lap race, more or less. So you don't do that little first half, but where that first trail marshal was, you'll start your second lap kind of going that way. Knowing how the course was designed and kind of how many or how much the grade was going to be, or how hard or difficult the hill climb was going to be, I did start at a little bit slower pace, so I did have a little bit more energy for the end. That's one of those things that you kind of have to think about. Luckily enough, when I even though I didn't pre-ride this course at all, I did get to look at the stats for it, and I kind of made a plan. And the plan is I knew that we were doing 2 laps with climbing on both of these laps, and knowing that, I gave myself a little bit, put down just a little bit less overall on the first lap so that I could have energy for the second lap. My heart rate doesn't say it, but my body felt that. You can see that there were people that had started ahead of me that were really slow on the second lap, because I think they started to gun it a little bit too soon on their first lap, so they gassed themselves. But, yep, here we go. So the event itself is, I mean, pretty beautiful. The area is super nice. The drive itself for me is an hour and a half long, so it is kind of a longer drive to get down
Yes,
there.
sir.
But yeah, it's a beautiful little place to be. Yeah, as you can see here, I am pushing the cadence up a little bit higher than I want to be. I would rather see myself down in the lower 90. I would like to be I'd like to be in the 85 to 95 range instead of the 95 to 105 range if I possibly can. So I believe that a lot of the guys that you see here are on their second lap already, and so they're pushing it. They're still going pretty fast, but there are a few that you can see that had gassed themselves because they were really pushing on the first lap and not giving themselves any opportunity on the second, or any energy on the second lap. So this climb that we go through, I mean, there are some flat spots, but it was pretty consistent, like where you're gonna go up and up and up. That's kind of the way this course is designed. You go up for the most part, and then you kind of go downhill afterwards. What's also kind of nice about this course was designed to be a little bit wider, so there is a lot of passing lane. If you let somebody know that you're behind them, I mean, you had a pretty wide berth to get around them. But yeah, as you can see, I mean, my cadence, that'll be something I'll work on for the next race, hopefully, is to not put down as much RPM in, but hopefully put down a little bit more power. My power there varies a little bit. I mean, it's in the 300s to 400 range. I can't say that again, I'm the fastest rider. I think my average power output is 242 to 245 watts average. That's from Garmin. That's what they're saying that my average output is.
Better back.
And there's one kid trying to pass, and then I will pass this guy here in just a second.
Come on the outside. Thank you. Have a good one.
Bump up that RPM there to try to pass them. Again, I don't think that was the correct way to do it. I think I really need just to drop down a gear and just kind of push it up. Again, I'm no expert here. So everyone that's watching it, I'm watching it with you, and I'm learning as much as I can with you guys. Looks like that guy gassed himself out right there. It is loose. Again, you'll see through some of these corners that we're riding that this stuff is loose. We get caught up here with a slower guy in the pack. This kid is trying to get past him, looking for an opening. I'm looking for an opening.
Thanks, sir. Sorry,
I'm letting the guy know. Coming on the inside here. And again, here's the thing. So we see this, you see this a lot in these races, again, because we have, the beginner courses, the beginner people, the sport, the experts, and the pros all kind of riding together. And what's really interesting is that these kids, or these people that are like the beginners, you guys don't need to stop. I mean, I understand if you guys need a break, but if your purpose is to want to improve in these races and get better, stopping is not the way to do it. If you guys need to modulate how fast you're going and regulate your speed a little bit, that's gonna help you out a lot, right? You're wanting to conserve energy for an hour-long race. I think this race I finished 51 minutes or so. So if you're planning for an hour, you need to be able to hold the energy for an hour. So pace yourself for an hour's worth of riding. And then one of the things to do is when you hear people say rider back, don't slow down, don't stop. See what I did with this guy right here. is, you know, pass him. He gives me an open lane to pass him, but you don't stop. Because when you stop, you lose all your momentum, and that's not good. And so, just one of those things. Coming up on one of these corners here, I think it's going to be not this corner, but the corner after this one.
Come on, you're right.
Is you'll see what the terrain is kind of like. I mean, you can see it's already dusty. When we get to the downhill section, it's just moon dusty. One of the things I think that the people could work on this course is the berms, the corners. They're kind of non-existent, and they're so moon dusty. And with it only being, you know, May, and it's already this moon dusty, it's awful. It's kind of scary. It's kind of sketchy. And you'll see that while I race this course, there's a few spots where it gets a little sketchy for me, and I lose time because of it. And that's, not exactly due to the course itself. It's due to my own ineptitude and inability and skill sets. And those are all things that I can work on.
On your left. Go for it. Thanks.
Here you go, passing people wherever I can. Wave goodbye to these guys. And so I remember in my mindset here, I was like, all right, at the beginning I was pushing a lot more RPM. I was like, all right, let's see if I can maybe drop this cadence down. And I didn't do a very good job. Oh, right here. So you can see it was a little bit slippy. If I maybe would have stayed kind of more in the center. As you can see, I'm sitting there. Why did I do that? How did that happen? I mean, I am sitting at max heart rate. That was a bad thing. You can see this guy coming up on me fast.
Okay, go ahead.
Let him pass me. Wave him through on the left-hand side. And I mean, precious time. That's precious time wasted right there when you make little mistakes. And mistakes will happen, right? I mean, look at this guy. This kid's powering up this climb. This kid's got some legs underneath him. He's probably, for as fast as he's going, he's pushing probably 500 watts for as little as he is. And I wish I had that. So, there is a concept here. There's the power to weight ratio, right? For someone as light as he is, even though he may only be pushing 280, 325, 350 watts, if he only weighs 120 pounds, his power to weight ratio is much better. On someone like me, where I weigh 160 pounds and I'm pushing an average of 245 watts, my average power to weight ratio is 3.3 watts per kilogram, which it's not that impressive overall, but it's something. And that's something that if you want to something to work on, something to strive for, that's something to do. The information shown on this or on my video here is taken by my Garmin. The power output is coming from a Stages left-hand only power meter. My heart rate is coming from a Ticker heart rate and so this is where all this information is coming from. It's overlaid. You can see your grade and distance on the right-hand side, heart rate, cadence, power, speed, and then rear view mirror for anybody who wants to see what's happening behind, or who's getting left behind, or who's catching up to me, because there are a lot of people that can catch up to me pretty easily. So through this course here, there are a few sections where you can see kind of the guys coming on the downhill. There again is another photographer. The guy who is doing the photography, I think it's Ron Winsett Photography, doing a fantastic job. He got a couple of cool shots of me coming through this course. As you can see, I'm terrible at drinking water at this point in time. That's one thing to think about here, is how you drink water. So on a course like this, where I actually had a lot of time to drink water, I didn't drink as much as I could have. I think my bottle is only, what, 500 or 750 milliliters. It's one of the shorter bottles. So I ride on this Intense Sniper, a small frame. The small frame is it only fits one water bottle. And with the shock on it, it is a little bit too short to fit a really full, or one of the full size bottles. So I run a shorter bottle so it can fit stuff in it. The only problem with that is yeah, I don't have as much water. On this race, even with all the free time that I had and all the time that I had, I should have been drinking more. I think in the end, I only drank maybe 300 milliliters out of the, what is it, 5 or 700 milliliters that I have in that bottle. I'll have to look it up sometime. So I didn't really drink that much water. I mean, the course itself, luckily enough, the temperatures were pretty mild still. We're only sitting in the 60s. Nice sunny day, so it's high visibility. But I should have been drinking a little bit more water with where I was at. You kind of get that really thick salivary feeling in your mouth, and yeah, I should have been drinking more water. And here we go, more climbing to be had. Nothing special here. As you can see, we're kind of we're getting pretty close to where this course starts to change a little bit here. So we're going to keep going uphill for just a little bit longer. Again, as you can see, my cadence is high. My cadence is much higher than I'd like it to be. I'd like to know what the cadence is on some of the you know, the experts and pro riders out there. I'm sure their cadences are, you know, they have varying. It's mountain biking. There's always going to be a variance in cadence. That's just one of those things that you get. All right, so this is kind of the start of the downhill. As you can see, I'm trying to ride what berms are readily available. The less you can be on the brakes, the better you are. So that is one of the first sketchy corners that you'll have. That section was dusty, and so I'm kind of coming offline. I'm trying to find the best sections of this thing that I can kind of blast through, and it's actually kind of difficult. The tires that I'm running on this bike are the Racing Ralphs. They are in 2.1. And yeah, you can see it's dusty. Put down a little power here to get up this section. And yeah, one thing to worry about and be concerned about here is that if you go outside on the edges at all, the dust just gets worse. And you can see one of that's a problem. See right here, there's a little bit of that, and if you push too deep into that corner, there's a high possibility of you washing out, and you'll see later on that's actually what happens through one of the corners. Alright, so talking about the cornering here, I mean, you can see there's a lot of corners. For a lot of newer people, you may not know this, there is something called target fixation. While you're mountain biking, I mean, if you're running at, you know, a high heart rate, one of the things that you don't want to do is watch this watch the edges. Watch where, like, right in front of your tire. A lot of people do this. A lot of newer riders will do this. They teach this a lot in where people are riding. You just have to be. You want to look where you're wanting to go and not where you're going. So if you look through this corner here, I'm looking where my exit is and not where my tire is going. Or I'm not looking at an obstacle, because if you start looking at the obstacle, say the corner, you're going to look at all the little features of the corner and you're going to start aiming for them. And even with me, I still do it. It doesn't matter. I mean, you have to be actively thinking about not staring at the corners. Mainly when it's moon dusty like this, you're trying to make sure the feature, you don't, hurt yourself in some of these features. And so here I am, you know, falling behind a guy. It's getting dusty. My rear camera's starting to get really dusty here.
Rider back. Turn on your left. Thank you.
Make sure that you tell the little ones that they rock and that they're going. And that they're totally killing it on a course like this where it's kind of scary. You know, these little kids are amazing for the resiliency. I mean, it's so cool to see little kids ride, and it's amazing that the parents come out and they're willing to, you know, kind of put their kids out there to go ride and race, and they're doing what they can. It's going to be awesome to see the next generation of riders. So that right there, that corner section was a little bit sketchy. It goes right into those rocks. I mean, I maybe could have pushed through the corner and finished it, but the inner corner was a little bit smoother than the outside. The outside kind of has actually a short little, I wouldn't say a drop per se, but it doesn't have anything. It kind of just drops down instead of smoothly goes down. So I probably should have pushed it a little bit. I don't have any issues, you know, falling into that. Another spot right here, trying to get a little bit tighter. Sorry. Drop, you know, lower your stance a little bit, get more aerodynamic. It's an open wide spot. You can be flying through here. One thing that I was trying to do, stay in that groove. That groove is dirt. The grass outside offers resistance. That was one of the things that I had thought about when I first saw this was do not get out of that little groove if you possibly can. There's a kid right there. I think he had a flat tire or something. It's kind of weird to see that on this course. There's not many places where you can get a flat. So I think I was talking to this guy, if I remember correctly. I was chit-chatting with him. Because I didn't run this course, there's a turnoff where you start your second lap and you do your first lap. And this guy was on his second lap, and you know, he's doing pretty good. He had some good pacing on him. And so I was kind of following him. Not sure what I was trying to do because I didn't know where I was at. So I kind of kept pace with him. I maybe could have gone a little bit faster, but yet again, I'm kind of I wasn't sure where to go. That's one of the things that you kind of want to be good with also, is kind of keep making your mind just doing something. It's not always, you know, right if you need to pass somebody, but it never hurts to follow somebody if they're going your pace for a little bit. One, you get a little break out of it, and two, if they kind of know where you're going, you can spot exactly what they're doing.
Like,
So
you go, right?
if there's something kind of sketchy ahead of you, you follow them. It's great. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. We were conversing about something.
So what? This is lap 1.
You can see we're chatting away.
Okay. Where is the cutoff for it? Cool.
So right here was kind of a cool little section. Kind of some cool little trees. We kind of go into a... So I followed this guy's line. I didn't know what to expect there. I couldn't see. It was super dusty. You'll see in the second lap what that actually was, which was really cool. I mean, we just kind of... It went straight. I don't know if we were supposed to exactly go straight, but a lot of people were just barreling through it straight. So I was like, follow the course. One of the things to think about in courses, actually, is what areas can you kind of cut a little bit. I mean, there are going to be little sections of the course where when you follow the trail, you are actually, you know, if it's got kind of a couple of little windy sections, and there's a little cut where you can kind of cut past it without needing to go through it. It's time. You know, if you're looking to aim for time here, that's one of those things that you want to do.
This moon dust sucks.
I don't remember what I was talking about with the course. So here we go. We're getting pretty close to where I start lap number 2, I believe. Again, I'm just following this guy. All right, and I'm gonna go say goodbye to my compadre. Thanks again for
Start second lap.
leading me for as long as they did.
Yeah, you too, man. Have a good one.
As you can see, waving him goodbye. Nice chatting with him while I was racing. I know that some of the more competitive racers, they're hardcore, don't talk or anything like that. I'm not one of those. I enjoy chatting with people while I'm riding, even if I'm in a race thought process. So right here, this is where that junction is at the very start of the race that you see. So this is lap 2. Again, just keeping my, as you can see, my heart rate's going. You know, and one of the things to think about here is because you're in like the sport and expert class or pro class here, the start times for those classes actually start later than the beginner class. So there's a lot of beginners running this course at the beginning. So the course itself does get more washed out and mushy as you go along. Just running some quick technical difficulties there. Guys, I hate to say it. You know, sometimes you got to adjust. And I was in that moment of trying to adjust. It was uncomfortable enough while in the race that it was actually distracting me. If you can, you know, push all the distractions out, great. I was not able to, so that was one of those moments where I was feeling. I was like, oh no, this is really uncomfortable for me. So I was trying to adjust and make it. Sort of got it to work, but it was still pretty bad. So here you go, climbing. I think I'm climbing at a slightly slower pace. Again, I'm kind of uncomfortable right there. While I'm sitting on the saddle, I was trying to kind of push past it, but I think actually I'm going a little bit faster than I was from the first lap. I think I started only at 6 miles an hour, so you know, me sitting at 7 or 8 miles an hour, even while I was uncomfortable, was kind of one of those interesting things. So here we go. Still working on it. I know. Sorry.
Thanks, dude.
You know, going up 7 miles an hour, kind of an easy, I wouldn't say an easy pace, but going at the pace that I can push for the grade that we were kind of going up. Flattens out a little bit, lets my heart rest for just a second. Bring the power down just a tiny bit here. Then again, bam, cadence. I don't know why. Not sure why I do it. I think, again, on the next race, I will working on my cadence. I want to try to bring my cadence down a little bit more and increase the power output instead. I know there's the difference between, you know, mashing the gears versus spinning the gears. I kind of want to try to aim for a hybrid of both, where I'm not spinning so fast that I'm not doing anything, and that's one of those things that I can work on, and I know that. And I will, and I'll try to work on that for the next race, and that's part of the goals for the next series of races. So these races, and the whole purpose of me doing this type of a thing, is to kind of inform you on where I think I can do better and where I think I can, you know, what I think I did well. Overall, what I can say with this race itself was I felt tired. This week, I'm actually taking a break from riding and training. Not saying that I'm like the biggest, hardest trainer ever, but taking some time from training to kind of relax and recoup myself and my body so that the next race that I go to, I feel more fresh. I did not feel fresh at all throughout this entire race, and that first lap took me a good amount of time before I started to feel okay, and it still wasn't the best. Even with that, preliminary results from this race showing, or it says that I'm in second. I finished second place. The guy behind me, who I was able to talk to afterwards, was only 1 second behind me, so that's pretty impressive. The guy in first, I think, was maybe like 30 seconds in front of me. So these little combobbles that I had, maybe I could have caught up to him, or I could have maybe beaten him, but it's tough. It's tough. But so the things that I think I could do better, and the things that I want to work on for the next race, the things that I did better were communication, yelling rider back a lot more often and a lot later, or I guess a lot sooner, so that the person that was in front of me knew that I was coming up on them. And I had a lot more time, and they had a lot more time to kind of maneuver themselves out of the way. So when I caught up to them, I was able to go. Things that I would love to work on for this next race. Again, let's drop that cadence. I want to see. I'd like to be, like right here, roughly 80, 90, not 100, if I possibly can.
Rider back.
You can see people trying to get out of their way, except just barely open enough.
Rider back, come up your left.
But look at this. It's a mountain biking family. How amazing is that? That's so awesome to see them. I'm so excited to see these guys riding. And they're still working. That's exactly what I'd like to see when I see a lot of newer people riding is, you're still going. Yeah, you're still trucking along, but you're not stopping. And even though you may be slower paced than I am, you give me room, and I will find a way around you. That's the whole point, is the person behind just needs to find the way around them. In a safe manner, of course. I mean, these races aren't, UCI, XCO races where money and everything is on the line. I mean, we're paying to race these, and part of it is to have fun and enjoy yourself and drive and motivate and push yourself a little bit. And it's worth it.
Rider back. Thanks, buddy.
I wonder what people think about when they're like, pushing their hardest and they see someone pushing past them. I know when I see these kids push past me, it's one of those, wow, I have something to work on. And I'm wondering if that's something that motivates people or, demotivates someone to keep riding. For me, personally, I find it as a motivator. I want to be a little bit faster. And that's kind of the goals, is to push myself, get my average power up higher and higher so that I can be faster and faster and work on technical skills, because technical skills are just as important as the amount of power. I mean, it's no road biking where you're riding a straight line at 245 watts. That's what's cool about mountain biking, is you can be pushing 200, 400, 500 watts for periods of time, stop to 0 watts, right, as you're going downhill, and you're averaging about the same. And I think that's what I really enjoy about cross-country racing. It's, the ups and downs. I mean, you're putting max heart rate in on the ups, and then you're using your technical skills on the down. So here we are. I'm sitting pretty high up there on the heart rate. 166. Again, I'm usually sitting at 169, 170 or so. So I'm putting a pretty good amount of effort in here. And I know this is my last lap, so I'm giving it a little more gas, right? I have the gas to give. Well, I should say that. But knowing your course is kind of a good thing sometimes. There's a spot where I think I may have tried to push just a little bit too hard, a little bit too soon near the end. I'll talk about that here soon.
Thank you.
So here's that section that I washed out on. I just made sure that this time I followed a more in the path and I didn't try to push into it as much while I was going uphill. One of the things I like to do is I like to try to keep momentum through some of these uphill corners. So I like to keep speed up. It feels like, I don't know how to explain the sensation, but you know how you guys go through a berm, kind of going through a right hand, or through a berm, and you kind of get that sensation that you can kind of really drive in there and keep it. Well, I like to do that while doing some of these uphill switchbacks. If it's got a good enough berm like I did over in Round Valley, you can really push pace. You can push some speed up through those switchbacks. And that's what I try to do, and I think that's why I washed out on this one, just because it was so loose. But so I was a little more conservative on that last corner that I had washed out on this second lap, just so that I wouldn't have that mistake again. And if you can learn from your mistakes, that's a good way to go.
Right her back. Thank you.
Passing this human, they did a great job. I felt kind of bad. I think I might have accidentally pushed them a little bit off the course. Right here, one thing that what I always think about, it's not something that is always apparent, I think, when it comes down to mountain biking, is when you know there's going to be an uphill, kind of like what you have here, the more momentum you carry going downhill, the better you are, and the easier it's going to be going up the hill. So, if you plan and you know that there's going to be that downhill section, instead of resting at that point in time, if you can keep an effort that's consistent, you might, it makes that uphill section a lot easier actually in the end. So instead of taking a rest, which is something I used to do, and you may not think about this, but this is something I used to do, was I used to rest a lot, right through those downhill little sections. So when I came up to the next uphill section, that 5 seconds of rest all of a sudden became the slog to try to keep that momentum going up the hill. If you keep momentum going down the hill, when you start climbing uphill, that makes that uphill a lot easier.
Right her back. Thanks.
And what's really interesting is seeing the differences in how people want to hydrate. This person has a pack on them. When I first started racing several years ago, I started racing with a hydration pack on my back. And there was good things and bad things about it. I think I had a 1.5 liter or a 2 liter pack. The problem with having such a large pack is you just drink way too much water. And I almost kind of felt like I was getting kind of slogged down by how much water that I had. It's always good if you can start races, hydrate early. And then use the water that you have in your bottle as more of a top off / kind of rinse your mouth out kind of a thing, versus I'm trying to keep hydrated, even though you should hopefully be hydrated beforehand.
Hi guys.
This is always fun.
Come on.
Threading a needle. He's letting me pass. I try to pass on the right. Then I kind of have to pass on the left.
Thanks guys.
A little bit of cone weaving with a couple of mountain bikers. Have fun. Yep, look how beautiful that is. Alright, here we go. You know, again, in this course, I wish I could have trusted my tires a little bit more. Even with those, yeah, I'm running Racing Ralphs. Yeah, they're kind of a cross-country tire. They may not have the most grip compared to, say, like my trail bike that has the Hans Dampf or something like that, but still, it was downhill. I wish I could have pushed just a little bit faster. And that could possibly be due to technique. I think there's a few techniques when you're in the loose that I need to work on. And I know that in some cases and in some times I got kind of fixated when I was going through some of the corners.
Hi guys.
You know, it's always really interesting is even while you're racing, I mean, you'd assume that since I'm going downhill, my heart rate should be going down quite a bit. Yet for some reason, while racing, I mean, my heart rate still has not really dropped too quickly. It's slowly going down there, but it is not going down as quickly as I expect. Right here, I can't say there's much to talk about. Camera guy. Getting some stees for the camera guy. Again, if you guys have ever raced this series, the guy that's taking the photography is Ron Winsett, I think is his name. If you go to midweekmountainbike.com, you can get a link to his pictures for any of the races that he has been to, and several of the others. Does great photography. Cool shots that he got of me. They're really enjoyable. Alright, as you can see, I mean, the kid behind me is really pushing for it. Didn't even think about it. Oh, right there. See, so one of the things that had happened right in that corner is I got right on the outer edge and I messed up it. And it pushed me straight on the outside. I mean, I barely saved it, but it cost me a lot of momentum. And what's nice about being up front is, I mean, now that I'm following this guy, I mean, not really, but he's still there's a little bit of dust being kicked up, so I'm kind of getting blinded a little bit by the dust, so I can't see as well.
Thanks, buddy.
Here we go, back down the fire track. Again, trying to drop my stance a little bit. That kid right there had crashed right in the corner. Kind of slowed us down a little bit. So
Thanks, buddy.
I think another thing that I need to work on also is I know I could have probably passed that guy a lot sooner. That is one of those things where I almost kind of get into the lull of following someone instead of following my own pacing. So I kind of pace with others randomly that may be a little bit slower. I probably could have pushed a little bit in some of the straighter sections and then gotten around him, slowed down enough to make it through the corner and then come out. But because I could pass him, I did. Quick shirt adjust there. With the kit that I ride, does tend to ride up a little bit. I'm on the shorter side. I'm 5'6", so a lot of the kits that I wear aren't exactly fitted for my size. So they're sometimes just a tiny bit too long. So I have to bring them down just a little bit so they're not riding up as much. And so, yeah, you can see right there, you can go outside on that corner if you wanted to, but in reality,
No worries.
how most people were riding and racing the way that they were, they went through it. And there are a few places there's a couple places you can do that in some courses. This one particularly, that's the only spot I think that you could have done it on. As you can see, I'm also not showing my confidence in the corners. After that kind of little washout there, there's always that thought process in the back of your mind. It's like, man, I don't want to wash out again. I mean, that was time consuming, so I'm going to take it a lot slower, and then you kind of lose speed during that and the pacing there. Alright, and here we go. Here's the junction to finish it off. As you can see, I'm like, I'm going straight ahead. I don't know why. So I thought here's my thought process here. This is where I talk about the knowing where the end of the course is. So I thought the end of the course was here or near here. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna start upping the pace just a little bit, putting down a little bit of power, upping the cadence. So my cadence is 120. Thinking, yeah, man, we're so close. So close to finishing. I can get this. I'm gonna be done here soon.
Thank you.
Because I see more cowbell person. And then it's like, oh, wait, there's still a little bit more. Ding it. Okay. So, I'm like, well, crap. Guess I didn't need to push too hard right there. I think it's the first time I actually stood on my pedals for this whole entire race. Right near the end. Probably could have done that just a little bit more here and there. Alright, so one of the things that happened, just because my heart rate was a little bit higher and I was kind of lost focus there for a second, things happen when you start to lose focus, so. Coming up is the fun. guys remember how I said corners are loose and sketchy? Well, there you go. Corners are loose and sketchy. So you can see I came up a little bit high on the right on that little left hand. It's a sweeping left. Should not have had any problems on it, but for some reason I came up high on the right hand side. And then right after that, it got really loose. And by really loose, I mean really loose. And that really, you know, and then I washed out. And you saw me crash. The only crash that I actually had. And it was probably on one of the easiest sections that you could possibly be on. All I had was a little brain fart. And that's what happened. Alright, so here, this is a grassy knoll. I had no clue what was going on. So I didn't know if I was supposed to be on the inside or outside. So I kind of raced on the inside and outside for half a second. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then there's the finisher, guys. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like and subscribe if you guys want to. And we'll see you guys at the next race.